Welcome back to Her Shift. Here we're talking about trauma healing, women's wellness stories, PMDD surviving. Let's get into it. Jilly Cooper passed this week. And after her passing, tributes poured in. But what I kept thinking about wasn't her fame, it was her fearlessness against the S word. It then took me back to Jackie Collins, another very, very famous, successful author. And I remember Dame Jackie. I remember her sat in a studio audience on a talk show in the 90s, being really heavily criticised amongst the hypocrisy and the stuff that they were spewing and saying to her. Again, the S word. It then made me think of a documentary I'd seen recently with Megan McKenna, which, if you don't know who she is, I believe she was on Love Island, but she was involved in a massive campaign to fight against the crime of revenge porn. And she was receiving an MBE this week, beautifully pregnant and glowing as well. Yeah, she was receiving an MBE. And it was just a link of women. There were other women too in this mix that, for me, made me just encompass the word that they had been publicly shamed. And shame is so huge in our space here as women. It is the ultimate poison. Shame. Let's talk about shame. I, like many of you I know, will have a very intimate relationship with it. But we're going to sort it out, right? Because I'm going to say this is how we shift it, we reclaim it, we offload it, we tell it to fuck off. We ain't doing shame here. If you are on the same page as me, and just so I know that I'm not speaking into the abyss, would you mind just either liking, commenting, going, I get you, I understand, absolutely, S word, shame. If you're on YouTube, would you mind doing that? Would you mind liking? If you're just listening to me, would you mind just going on the podcast app and just liking it? Just so I know that you're there. Just so I know that you think, yes, shame, really big thing. Now, I had a dealing with my shame monster this week. So I actually went to an expert in PTSD. I had a trauma-informed session with him. Now, we're talking, this guy was meant to be, well, I'm sure he is, the bollocks, like absolutely phenomenal at what he did. He's worked with war veterans, he's worked with people who've been in huge disasters, he's worked with people with phobias. He is very famous in his field. I'd never heard of him, but the universe delivered his details to me. I went along, and I'm sure you might have heard of this, where when I've been to therapy in the past, and I will continue to do so, a lot of the time I just go along with it. Has anyone else done that? As in, it might not be clicking, it might not be working, I might be thinking, I can't do this. But I'm so embarrassed that I don't want to say. So a lot of the times when I've been in sessions, I've gone along with it. So whatever whether it was hypno or the blinking eye movement things, the EMDR, I've gone along with it. And I decided with this guy this week, I was like, nah, it's expensive, and this is me, and I'm like, I've had enough of this shit. So I carry, there's a lot of trauma there, and I have been diagnosed with CPTSD, and I want rid of it. So I went along, and I think I'll leave the details up to my Patreon. You can find me over there. But for here, I'm just going to say that he had to speak to my subconscious, because my subconscious was not going to let go. It was like going, I'm going to block her brain, I'm going to fog it up, she ain't going to be listening to you because you're going to try and change her. You're going to try and remove programs that I've put in to protect Anna from a very young age. So it was basically going, I imagined it as like Gandalf, thou shalt not pass, you know. Is that what it is? Like, I'm not a massive Lord of the Rings fan, but I do remember that line. Anyway, it wouldn't give it up. So he spoke to my subconscious, and I had to either lean forwards or backwards with my eyes closed, depending when it was yes or no. So forwards for yes, backwards for no. I had seen this been done with my son before, but I'd never quite believed it. Anyway, apparently it's to do with like the body, the muscle has more memory, that it's actually the trauma is in the body, not the brain. And he asked my subconscious whether I was prepared to let go of certain programming, whether it would be fears, anger, frustration. My body was hesitant, my subconscious was hesitant, but it did say yes. But when he said, "Are you willing to let go of the programs you have around shame?" I nearly fell backwards. Like I nearly fell, he had to actually catch me because I nearly fell backwards. As in my body was going, nah, shame. We know shame. Familiar, shame is familiar. We like shame. And I'm thinking, I really don't want shame. But I've had such a massive heap of it piled on me, or so I thought. That's what we're going to discuss here. That I was like, I ain't giving up that shame. So we've done a lot of exercises and we're working on that. But then it just struck me that the amount of shame that I carry, that I actually think it's the root cause of a lot of my trauma. It's been the result of trauma. I carry it with me every day. My nervous system is riddled with it. And it's something, it's so common. I would say the majority of us experience it in some form every single day, even if we're not aware of it. You know, whether you might be in a queue and not notice that the queue's moved forward and someone has to say, excuse me, and then in that moment you're like, oh, feel shame. And obviously there is a difference, isn't there, between shame and guilt. And guilt is, I did something bad, whereas shame is, I am bad. And that is definitely what I can relate to here. So, do you see where I'm going with this? And we're going to sort this out. I'm going to talk about shame monster. I'm going to talk about women like Jilly, Jackie, Megan, and maybe Liz Taylor, who through their actions, through their legacy, are kind of like showing us a path of how we can move through shame, reclaim shame, view it differently, or just completely park it. Or do you know what, if you want to even bin it? But also you may be surprised as to where we get shame from it in the first place. Because until very recently, I believed it was given to me by somebody else. So the thing that always got me with what I call lovely, relaxing holiday, I used to probably call it trash, easy reading stuff, like Jilly Cooper, Jackie Collins. I mean, way before there were Kindles and online, I would take one of their books on holiday and yeah, loved it. I mean, this was way before E.L. James and 50 Shades. And their work was called Bonkbusters, trashy, smut. Yet it always occurred to me that it was really easy reading, really enjoyable, which surely that's what reading should only be about, and also sold a hell of a lot of copies, which suggested that actually it was very popular, which then makes me think maybe in its own marketing by calling it, smutty and trashy, that we think, oh, what is this? It builds a curiosity. But then again, these writers both wrote multiple books in their careers and every single one was a bestseller. Or pretty much every single one was a bestseller. So people wanted more. Women didn't buy one copy, read a few pages and throw it away in disgust. They read the book and then they read another one. And they also made film adaptations, TV adaptations of these books. So maybe they were actually writing for an audience that wanted that. Maybe they were writing their truth. Maybe they were staying true to themselves. But what I loved about these writers is they never ever apologized about writing about female desire and writing about what was their truth, what they were feeling, writing about something that was enjoyable, that made sense, that it obviously could relate to, about their fantasies, probably about the fantasies of other women. It just made me think about how stoic and brave they were. Can you imagine the amount of criticism that Jilly Cooper and Jackie Collins would have received? Because this is way before, the days of social media and online. So this would have been in the press. And like I said, if I saw them occasionally in interviews and on talk shows, and a lot of the hate would come from other women. But who has put that seed in those other women? Where has that, vitriol and hatred come from for them? And then it occurred to me, perhaps it is their shame that they were projecting onto these strong, truth-speaking women, truth-writing women. It was the shame that had been put on them. And where had that come from? Is this a symptom of the patriarchy? But just to remember Jackie Collins, being so stoic, and she was bombarded with such, horrible reviews and people talking about her work in such a way. And then I remember looking around the audience, and it was a very, we call it Mary Whitehouse type audience. And if you don't know who she is, just Google her, you'll get the picture really quickly, right? We're talking virtuous, is wannabe virtuous. Ultimately, people that put their opinions onto others and shame women, slut shame women and their sexuality and their desires and what they want to read. It did occur to me, I wonder how many members of that audience that were basically pitchforks at dawn had read those books. I guarantee, I'd say nearly all of them will have had a look at it. It was only Mary Whitehouse in one particular interview said that she'd never even read it, at which point I'm so surprised that Jackie Collins didn't tell her to bob off. Because how can she even have an opinion if she's never even read it? But anyway, I digress. So it just made me think how often women are punished for being visible, for being sexual, for being outspoken. And it's a very manipulative and very, well, it's a tool that works, shame. If you shame somebody or try to shame somebody, it's like a very insidious, toxic poison that eats away at the psyche, the self-esteem of someone. And again, it takes a very, very strong person, in this case, a very strong woman, to keep going, to go, no, this is my truth. I will continue to write this. There is an audience for that. Fuck you. Gives me tingles. I'd recently then seen the revenge porn documentary between Megan McKenna and, I hate saying his name, Stephen Bear. I'd heard about it when it was going on. I knew about it when it had come out, so she had had an intimate relationship with him, and whether he did it deliberately, he probably did. He used home camera security footage to film them having sex outdoors. And he did tell her afterwards that he'd done it. She was very distressed and requested obviously it be deleted. And he didn't do that. He shared it with his friends, and then he shared it on the internet, and then he shared it for profit. And it's not that I didn't think about how awful at the time, but I do remember thinking, well, that certainly has happened before. And it made me think about how vulnerable she must feel and how disgusting. And I'd seen in this documentary there were clips of her speaking to the camera directly where she was sort of vlogging and recording what was going on, and she was really, really distressed. Really distressed. She felt like because it had been done without her consent, the actual recording of it, she didn't know about it. And now the fact that obviously once something is put on the internet, even no matter how you try to remove it, it's almost like you remove it and it forms two heads, and then it multiplies and it multiplies. It cannot be shut down. So she tried for a very long time to have it removed, and she used like laws and breaches to have it taken away, and it wouldn't. And I think that a lot of people, including a lot of women, just wanted her to shut up during that time. It was almost like they were saying she brought it on herself. Because she was a Love Islander, because she was an attractive young woman who was clearly having fun, doing what she wanted to do, having relationships with who she wanted to have them with. And not only did she keep fighting it, she then decided to go public with it and take it to court, because she actually wanted the, I I don't think revenge porn was actually a crime to this point. I think that you could be something to do with like indecent images, or there was something to do with like copywriting or something like that. But revenge porn wasn't a really big thing. It was kind of almost accepted that that's what happens if we play around with cameras. Really, really bad, very misogynistic. So, and in going to court and fighting this, obviously she was in the papers every day, she was online every day. Have I said the papers? God, I'm from that era, so she was online every day. The court case made headlines. It was really, really big. Also, his behaviour throughout, like I said, I don't want to talk about him. Absolutely vile. P.S. Oh, well, horrible. Just utter piece of shit, honestly. And if you ever want to see a malignant narcissist in action, if you ever wondered what that comes in a celebrity form, just watch this documentary. He is the epitome of it. Absolutely vile. Answer for everything. Arrogant. Ugh, just. And also the way that he spoke to the court, his lack of respect. And he ended up hanging himself because of it. I don't mean literally, but because of his behaviour, it didn't help his court case one bit. Again, like I don't want to get into watch the documentary, you'll see it. But it just made me, again, really reflect on Megan, who was in her 20s, and it just was like, that was so brave. That was so brave, because I think the majority of women, probably myself at that age, would have wanted to crawl under a rock and hide. I'd be so ashamed from actually doing nothing wrong. I would have blamed myself, and I think a lot of women would, and I would just maybe keep a very low profile for a very long time until it went away. And it would never ever fully go away. And she didn't do that. She faced the criticism, she faced, again, hatred, vitriol, and she faced it as well from a lot of women. She had to talk about her sex life. She had to talk about this very public video in front of her family, who were all privy to it. And she fought, and she won. She won. He was put in prison, and I think there'll be a lot of people who watch the documentary, and if you had an opinion before you viewed it, you'll watch and go, wow, brave, brave. You cannot deny that. That girl is so brave for doing that, and absolutely deserving of an MBE. And what a way to reclaim shame, or put the monster back in its box. It made me think about so many of the women that have had to fight against society norms, from a level of misogyny, and just, I won't say I was thinking, it made me think about divorce, and it made me think about my own divorce. And I'm in a time where you're still labelled. It's still not, it's not praised. And sometimes I think it should be. It's almost seen as, I think it still is actually, I think divorce is seen as failure. And it made me think about Elizabeth Taylor, and made me think about Miss Joan Collins, Jackie's fabulous sister. There's women from that time that have been married quite a lot. And I have to say that before I really thought about it, I remember thinking, why would you do that? Why would you do that? I mean, it's like, okay, you marry someone, you get it wrong. Okay, divorce is an option. It's not the easy one, but it's an option. But then you did it again and again and again. I've grown a lot since then. I've grown up. I understand. I completely understand the patterns and the behaviours and the loops that we get ourselves into. And it also made me think that if someone just had instead of getting married 6 times, they'd had 6 relationships, serious relationships throughout their life, and those broke up, they wouldn't have half the stigma attached to them. And it just made me think about when Elizabeth Taylor first got divorced. She was 18 when she first got married, and she got married actually to Nicky Hilton, which I believe is Paris Hilton's either grandfather or great-grandfather, but as part of their Hilton empire. I'm assuming grandfather. So she was this famous movie star with MGM, Nikki Hilton, heiress, not an heiress, an heir, the Hilton dynasty. So yeah, really hot celebrity couple. They were divorced within a year. And it turns out that despite Elizabeth only being 18, it's like she married him, and then literally the minute she married him, she realised what an absolute bastard he was. He was abusive, he was alcoholic. And when she realised her mistake and she went to her family, and particularly her mother, she was told, well, yep, this is sometimes what happens, but you're married now, there's your bed, go lie in it. I hate that idea. I hate that was the norm back then, but it really was. It was almost like a game of roulette, and I can just imagine being in love and being a young woman, and then just to have your dreams shattered, but also feeling so incredibly trapped. A case of, I married this person, there's nothing I can do. So now in Elizabeth Taylor's case, yes, she did have money. She did have status. She was still only a kid though, still very young. And then to go to those that, should have supported her and should have understood, and they didn't, and then to still go, no, I'm not accepting this, I'm not staying married to this man, and getting a divorce. Despite all the criticism and the stigma and the slut shaming, and again, the shame piled on. Now, I didn't realise, how bad that first marriage was until I read about it. But it shouldn't have mattered, should it? It's like in any other aspect of life, if we make a mistake, then we can sort that out, okay? Particularly in a case of a relationship. And to have so much shame, again, put on a woman. And I get as well that it can be both ways. There might have been a marriage where it might have just been boring. Or maybe she might have been the instigator, whatever. But I'm saying if a situation's not right, to there before you can't do anything and be publicly shamed about it, it makes me feel really trapped in my own soul. It makes me think about my own daughter. It makes me think about my own situation. Now, admittedly, when I started looking at the idea of separation and divorce, and I was really scared, I'm going to be quite honest, I didn't feel very supported at all. And yes, I did hear those words were said to me that, in my time, you just have to suck it up. And divorce is like a final off. And I know that the parent involved in my life to this day is very embarrassed about my divorce. In fact, from what I've heard, that many of their friends still don't know that I am divorced. When this first happened, I felt an enormous amount of shame. These days I'm thinking I should have had a party. I still want to do that. I should have, for being so brave, for going with my decision, for going, this is really not healthy. This is not right. This is affecting so many people, not just me. And I need to do the right thing. And to get divorced with no money, no support. And I want to do like the 80s, I think it's the Volkswagen advert, Too Young at Heart, where you think it's a registry office wedding, but it's actually her divorce. And she gets in the car and she takes off her wedding ring and she puts it in the ashtray, because it's the 80s. And on the back it says just divorce, and she drives off. And I just think, yeah, empowering. That ad must have been quite shocking for its time. But it gave me tingles back then, and it still does now. Look it up, it's really good. So I started to have all these thoughts and think about certain women and women that I know and my own stories. And again, the link was the shame, and the shame that was used by other people. And if the shame was accepted by the woman, that is so controlling, and it keeps us so small, it keeps us so trapped, and there's no way we're going to heal when we're carrying such a shitload of shame. It was said to me in my session, this is like the root of it all, and carry a great amount of it. Actually, that was said to me, I remember now, my first ever therapy sometime in my 20s. And it was like a psychiatric evaluator at the time, who was trying to assess me and what I needed. And I just remember her sitting back and going, what I'm getting from this is a great amount of shame. I didn't really know what she meant at the time, but now I'm just like, yeah, my entire body certainly until the other day, was riddled by it. I think I am going to have one more session with this guy. I will keep you updated. Anyway, I just want to think about how shame keeps us stuck, how it keeps us trapped, how we carry it, how heavy it is, how much it impacts us. Do we shame other people? Do we allow others to shame us? Or are we the source of that shame? Now, I saw a story on social media the other day, and I'll just warn you, this is quite jarring. So this was a case of sexual abuse, and I think it was from when she was a young girl, not sure what age, who then as an adult had met her abuser, and she confronted him. She found the strength to confront him and tell him how he had made her feel. Because she had imagined this, that she said that she just wanted to be strong enough her whole life to do this and confront this man and tell him what he had done, how it had made her feel, how it had impacted her life to such an extent. And he didn't give the response she was expecting. He didn't apologise. He didn't play it down. Sorry, he played it down. He touched her on the arm and he went, "I'd had no idea you even remembered that. You poor thing." Oh, and apparently she said, "Are you not going to say anything? Are you not going to say sorry?" And he just said no, and he walked away. And I think that she felt distraught for 30 seconds before then realising that actually he hadn't put the shame on her. What he had done to how he had harmed her, that was absolutely his doing. Beyond disgusting. But the shame she was carrying, she had continued to pile on herself. Is that fair? No, it's not fair. And she shouldn't have that. It should never have happened to her. And the fact she was piling on herself is, but she had continued to do that. And I think that when she said that she wanted to confront him is because she wanted to give that shame back. She was like, "You've given this to me, so I'm going to give it back to you." And he wouldn't accept it. He would not accept that. And then she realised that actually she had that choice in that moment to not forgive him, but almost to forgive the version of herself that was in that pattern loop, that piled that shame and toxicity onto her, that carried the story and had made the story in her head that when I confront him and I give him the shame back, this is quite a complex idea. And I don't think I'm explaining it very well. But what she said was that she had in that moment the ability to dump the shame, to drop it, to put it down. She could just put it down and leave it there. She didn't have to give it to anybody. She didn't have to give it back. And it wasn't hers to carry in the first place. It doesn't matter where it had come from. It doesn't matter. It doesn't belong to anyone. Park it, put it down, lose it. She talked a bit about forgiveness. I have different ideas and theories on forgiveness. I have talked about it in the past, and I think that's more episodes for the future. I'm still not I haven't come to a full conclusion when it comes to the forgiveness and how it's us that we need to use forgiveness for our benefit. However, in terms of the shame and having that choice to drop it, to drop the load, to put it down, absolutely. And it made me think that the women that have been through absolute hell and have continued to plough through and to live their truth and to live their lie and to break the cycle are the ones that have decided to reclaim their power and put down their shame. So it made me think about my own traumas, my background, my childhood, and I've been carrying a lot. I've been carrying a lot of shame. And yes, the shame was put on me by other people, but also as a child and growing, and as I got older, I chose to carry it. So it made me think in something I've been journaling. So what's something you've been carrying? What's sort of story? What's your block? What's your shame monster that you've been carrying? Not because you chose to. What's a piece of shame that someone handed to you and you took and thought you had to carry because you believed it was true? Mine in general was that I was just a really bad person and that sometimes I could be good, but inherently I was bad. Sometimes I was good, sometimes I was bad, but in general I was bad. Now there's no evidence to prove this or disprove it, but it's what I believed. It was a piece of stinking pile of shitty shame that was given to me, and I took it and I believed it and I held it and I carried it. I carried it for a very, very long time. 40 years. It can be that, story in general, or it could just be something, someone might say to you, oh, you're, from a time, you're really bad with money, or you're not good with computers, or you're a terrible singer. They're projecting, shaming. You go, yes, I am. You hold out your hands, you take it, and you hold it, and you carry it with you. What's yours? So what I've come to the conclusion from with that, and yeah, shame is all around us. We see it, we live it, we feel it every day. We've all got our own. But I think it's just reminded me to drop shame that is given to us. We probably shame ourselves enough, but when we're given it by other people, yeah, you can choose to hand it back if you want. You can do that, metaphorically. You can hand it back to somebody. They might not take it. They probably won't. In fact, yeah, they won't take it. Even if that person understands your point of view and profusely apologizes, it's unlikely they're not going to be able to actually take that shame away from you. But I'm telling you right now, you can drop it. You can put it down. It's not yours. It never was. You can leave it. You can pop it in the bin. If you are in any way feeling this, it's quite a raw and ready episode, isn't it? If you're in any way feeling like this, if you want to drop a comment, or if you want to message me with your own shame monsters, your own stories, your own piece of shame that as of today you are going to drop, park, bin, I'd really love to see that. I'd love to see that in the comments, and I'd love to hear from you. We are also talking about this in the room. The room is a Patreon that I have got going on. It is like a very secret corner of Her Shift. It's just a really nice place to be, and it's a transformational book club, and it just has a bit more real and gritty, and not that these episodes aren't, but we just talk more, and there's more of a community feel to it. So I would love you to go and check that out and to join us there. And like I said, the books that we look at in the room really do cover these topics, and they are non-fiction, self-development, self-help, and yeah, transformational, because that is what Her Shift is about. It is about shifting and healing and thriving. And I think that works most when we can have these conversations together. And it just occurred to me actually that I found this episode quite hard to record, maybe because of the association with shame, because it's a very hard thing to talk about. It's a very hard thing to admit. And the whole time I was recording this, I was actually thinking, I'm going to get this wrong and I'm going to upset someone. Because it's not like a black and white subject, and it's so divisive. And yeah, and it also occurred to me that there might be people listening that hate Jilly Cooper, Jackie Collins, and Megan McKenna. Unlike Liz Taylor, but yeah. But I thought, that's not the point, is it? That's not, we're all here as Her Chef. And I also think it's unlikely that if you listen to me that you can't be fans of them, because, reading a lovely bit of ride as well on holiday, that's what Her Shift is all about, isn't it? Do something that gives you pleasure, give something that you enjoy, make space for something that lights us up and fills your cup, because that is what healing is all about. And proudly as well, have that book out, whether it's on the tube or on public transport or on holiday by the pool. You hold that book up, and you with that cover with the saucy image. In fact, if you've got anything like that, or E.L. James or anything like that, be it Barbara Cartland, yeah, take a picture, tag me. I'd love to see it. So, rounding up for next week, thank you for sticking with me. I hope that hasn't been too heavy. And again, I would love it if you shared the little parts of you, shared any stories, or if you just want to connect on a deeper level. That's what Her Shift's all about. So always know we're all here for each other. I'll say it again. Please remember, you are doing amazing. Please keep going. You are stronger than you think. And as always, sending all my love.